Hey everyone, welcome to Where Do We Begin, the place where two cheeky best friends, Natasha and Rebecca, bring you the real, raw, and often ridiculous side of life. We've been through it all, and we're here to spill the tea, share the laughs, and say all the things you're probably thinking but don't want to say out loud. So get comfy, grab a drink, and let's get into it, because we're just getting started. And I am so excited for today's episode.
Me
so
too.
Today we're diving into a topic that's transformative and challenging and a little confusing because it's figuring out how does it work and what does it mean. And it's shadow work and inner healing. And these might sound like intense terms, but they're really about understanding ourselves on a deeper level and the things that trigger and irritate us that are not about the external, but are actually about what's happening inside us. So Rebecca found a pretty cool video.
Where do we begin?
Yeah, so I think this is where we begin. So if we want to maybe pull it up just to sort of give an explanation of...
It's a great explanation of shadow work.
If you read Carl Jung and you understand him and you're not terrified right to the depths of your soul, you haven't understood a damn thing you've read. And one of the things that Jung said about the shadow, which is the dark side of humanity, the dark side of each individual, was that its roots reached all the way to hell. And so what he meant was that if you were able to understand your dark side, then you would see in yourself a reflection of the behavior that was present at Auschwitz, for example. And that the reason that people don't take the dark side of themselves seriously at all, even confront the fact that it exists, is because no one wants to see that reflected within them. And no wonder. Jung also believed that that confrontation with the shadow was an inevitable barrier to enlightenment. He said, pursue what's meaningful and you'll encounter that which you least want to encounter.
Subscribe to our channel, not their channel.
Yeah. Whoopsies.
So, just to get this started, just to get the ball rolling. So when I didn't understand what shadow work was, it was always very easy for me to blame other people for things. And then it wasn't until I started to look inward to see the dark sides of me and the pieces where I needed to heal, to fully understand that if my irritation was something or me feeling a certain way about someone else is always a reflection of yourself. And so when we get into understanding what shadow work is, I think one of the most sort of poignant statements that really help us understand this is that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves.
Hands down.
And it also helps me understand now when someone says something to me about how they view me or how they think I should be doing something different in my life, I'm able to just take that in and understand that's not about me.
Yeah,
that is about how you are viewing me through your lens and how you actually feel about yourself.
And you're projecting it onto me.
But not everyone understands that.
The vast majority don't.
They do not. So explain to me what your relationship and experience with shadow work has been like.
Shadow work has changed my life fully. One of the first self-help books I ever purchased, I think I was in high school or something, and it's been an ongoing process since then, had the quote in it that the way that people treat you is a direct reflection of how they feel about themselves.
Yes.
So same idea with the mirror and how, you're reacting to things. And then I kind of wanted to dive in and figure out why I did react certain ways when things would happen, why certain things would trigger me and get me so bent out of shape for what would seem to be not that big of a deal. And, after diving into it and figuring out why, it's all your subconscious. So we're not even thinking it. It's not something that you're thinking of at all. It's, again, when you're sleeping, when you're not aware of your thought process, it's these thoughts that happen through our minds at that point. But
so when we talk about shadow work, it's really the process of bringing hidden or suppressed parts of yourselves into awareness. And so that can be unprocessed emotions, fears, limiting beliefs, and even habits or reactions. And
that's actually what alchemy is too.
Right.
So and we're all alchemists. Yes. To be an alchemist is to transmute something from one thing to another. So whether it's pain to purpose or whatever, you're transmuting it, which is what shadow work is.
And I think the interesting thing also in this sort of like day and age that we're living in is I think that social media has really started to shine a light on shadow work for people.
Ooh,
because I think, and you know that I have had experiences where people have gotten mad at me about things that I've posted.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. Yes.
And so and to me, I was like, what is happening right now? Like, how is this even an issue? Because like, it's not about you. But then I realized, oh no, but it is about you.
It is about you.
Because you are seeing something. So someone can see something on social media with someone who's just in a happy relationship and they're like, look at that person always posting about their relationship. That's not what the issue is. The issue is not that they're upset that this person is always posting about their relationship. Their issue is that there's something that they feel is lacking within themselves
100%.
that is coming out when they view this. And I think that goes back to when people have a lack of awareness about what triggers them and what that means for themselves, it can cause issues in their relationships and in their own lives.
Everywhere in your life can be affected if you're like that, for sure. But a lot of people lack awareness.
Yes.
I don't think that's something you can teach.
I would hope it is, but I agree.
So.
I don't think it is something that you can teach, but what do you think people need to know about? Like, if someone's watching this right now and is like, oh shit, that might be me. Like, I might be looking at something on social media and being upset about it and then realizing and not even thinking that it's about you.
It's that little irk feeling that you get. It's like, okay, you want to dive in. Why do I feel like that? And essentially what I did anyway is you trace it back step by step. Right. What else makes me feel like this?
Okay.
Write everything out to see, what are the common factors. Then you go all the way back to childhood, because between the age of 0 and 7 is what makes you fundamentally who you're going to be as an adult going forward. So what love was given, what love was withheld from you, if you came from a family that would spank you if you got in trouble, or, there's so many different variables, there's so many things, but it's all connected to how we then act going forward in our adulthood.
Yes, and how we like show up and how we show up as adults.
Absolutely.
And I come across adults where I'm like, wow, like you never learned how to regulate your emotions when you were a child, because you think it's okay to show anger all the time. Like you think it's okay to yell in your house all the time.
Yeah.
And and those are my triggers, because it makes me feel weird when I'm in that environment, and it triggers me, but then it makes me wonder, why does it make me feel weird? And it's because, maybe I had an issue with emotional regulation, and maybe there's something I need to work on with my emotional regulation. But I think you need to be at a higher level of consciousness to even be able to look at, because I would wager to guess that there's a lot of people in this world who go through life and never see that they're the problem. And I know I've been the problem.
Same.
But there's a lot of people who think and don't understand that they've ever been the problem. Yeah. Which is the problem.
It is the problem. The problem is that you don't see that you're the problem.
If you have never been the problem, you really need to take a look inward, because you have been the problem.
Absolutely.
You just refuse to identify that.
And acknowledge,
And that is also part of shadow work.
Yes, is to basically integrate the shadow. So when you think of duality, everything in this universe is duality, and there's certain universal laws that apply to everything.
Right.
So duality could be light versus dark, North Pole versus South Pole. It's duals. One does not exist without the other.
Right.
So, you have all these beautiful aspects about you. They're amazing. You have this light in you. You also have a shadow. And the whole trick of it is to figure out what irks the shadow and to work with it.
Right.
And to use it to your benefit, essentially.
Yes.
You learn so much about yourself, and just like being able, again, like you said, being able to process emotions after, why is it that I feel this way, to have that level of understanding after doing the deep dive as to, figuring out why am I like this?
Yeah, why am I like this is a great question. Why am I
like
this? And I think also when we're talking about inner healing and shadow work, there's another statement. There's no coming to consciousness without pain.
Ooh.
And I think, and we've talked about this before, if you don't allow yourself to feel the pain and to heal from it, you'll never grow and progress, because you're just going to stay stuck in that feeling or in that place, in that stagnancy of where you were then.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you see. And I think the older I get, the more I can understand and see people who have not worked on their inner
done the
parts.
Work.
They've just
done the work.
been floating. Mm-hmm. They've just been the non-playing characters in life.
Like they're the NPCs.
They are the NPCs because they're literally just
existing.
Just existing, just doing the things, but there's no reflection. Like I'm constantly trying to look at how could I have been better in that situation?
How can I do better going forward?
Yes. And sometimes I couldn't have because I was the best in the situation.
Wah, wah.
But, I think that is a big piece of it. So when we're talking about exploring inner healings, there's a few points. One is healing old wounds. So what does that mean? And that could even be like in grade 1 when you were sent to detention and you still think about that and you feel shame about that. Like how do you
isolated.
Work through that?
You feel isolated because you're alone in another room or whatever. So how you work with that? There's a bunch of meditations that you can do. There's journaling that you can do. But essentially, what I started with was I wrote my younger self a letter.
Yes.
And I acknowledged all of the pain that little girl went through.
Wow.
And you state that I love you. I'm here for you. I will be the adult that would have saved you in whatever situation that you found yourself in. You're safe, you're loved, you're all these things. And you continue on with that. And at first it feels forced. Yeah. It feels fake. It feels like you're lying to yourself. It feels stupid. It feels a lot of things, but you have to keep doing it. Just like anything in life, consistency is how you got to keep working at it. Because at some point you start to believe that. You start to actually believe, like you talk yourself into it.
Yes.
You're your own hype girl, baby.
You are.
So, you know, I am beautiful. I'm kind. My favorite one currently is I am divine, I am sublime, all I want is already mine.
I love that.
So you're calling these things into existence, essentially.
And people might think we sound crazy, but it works. Like
it works,
when you constantly have a brain of negative self-talk, when you're living in an environment where it's constant negative talk about yourself, about other people, about everything around you, that is what's going to manifest in your life.
You're calling it into existence.
You're literally calling the negativity into existence. Like you 100%. Have to... I mean, and sometimes, yes, we do need to look at the negative in ourselves. I'm not,
it's okay to look at it and acknowledge it and love it even because it serves a purpose.
Yeah, and it is still part of you.
Yeah.
It's very much still part of you. So the process of inner healing, so journaling, therapy, meditation.
Oh, therapy. God, I love my therapist. She's amazing. Her name's Mary. Shout out, Mary.
Shout out to Mary.
Yeah.
So when we're getting into those tools, I've never really been a therapy person, but how has therapy helped you with shadow work?
Oh, she actually was the one that introduced me to it. I had no idea what it was. I did read a book when I was in high school, but after I got divorced was when I really started this healing journey.
Right.
And I didn't even understand the concept. Why would I like my dark side? Is that not Darth Vader? Like I don't want I don't want it to hang out with you. You look awful, right? But again, in order to break it down, transmute, and actually utilize it to your advantage, you have to look at it. You have to feel to heal. You have to...
you have to feel to heal.
You got to do all of these things.
And what do you think would have happened if you had not been introduced to shadow? Who would you be right now?
Oh my God, I think about this all the time.
Yes.
Okay, I love this question. I would be miserable, first of all. For reference sake, at the time during the marriage, I was probably 50 pounds heavier than I am now. Terrible skin, terrible attitude. Nothing was my fault. I was the victim.
Yes.
It was always someone else's fault.
Yeah.
But we play a role.
Yeah, we do.
We play a role.
And when you believe it enough that is who you are, then that's who you will just stay unless you pull yourself out of it.
Exactly. And you have to pull. It's a struggle getting out of that situation.
Because no one can be a victim all the time.
No.
I don't think it's even possible.
That's not even possible.
No, I mean, unless you're kidnapped or something, but that's different.
A kidnapper would drop us back off.
They would. They wouldn't want us at all.
Fuck, you guys are annoying. Get out of the van. Leave the kittens here. Oh, dear. Anyway, so back to this. So, you can journal to write the letter to the inner child, just figuring out, what was it. Usually it happens in childhood, though.
But who would you be? We have to go back to this question. Who would you be if you hadn't done
I would
the shadow work?
I would still be that fat, miserable bitch.
Right.
Is what I would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to train my mind every day to not be that person.
It's like your life came to this fork in the road.
Yeah.
And you could have chosen to just keep going on and keep being miserable and keep blaming.
Just existing.
And just existing and blaming and floating and non-playing character.
Yeah.
But you chose the other path.
Oh, I'm the main character. No,
Good.
This is main character.
You are the main character.
100%. So are you.
Thank you.
And this is how we all have to view ourselves. You know what my new favorite thing is also is I pretend I'm in a rom-com 24/7.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, like every day, like, oh, it's raining. I wonder if
it's... Like a Hallmark movie.
Yeah, like a Hallmark movie.
Like a Hallmark movie.
Exactly.
And so there was a statement that we had around the tools and practices for shadow work, which is no tree, it is said, can row to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell.
I love that quote.
So what does it mean?
I love that quote. It means you have to go to the depths of your soul, to the darkest, worst place in order to get to heaven.
And sometimes you have to get yourself to rock bottom, and you have to get yourself to the worst place. And for some people, I think what happens is because they don't do the shadow work and they're just living life being miserable, and then they start to lose everything around them because that's the reality they're creating. And then you get to that point and you're like, for some people, I think they'll just keep down that path and it's not going to go great. But I think for others, they'll start to see, okay, this, there gets to a point where I've started to realize that I'm the problem.
Oh,
And then they get to those depths of hell, but then they're able to actually...
How do I fix the fact that I'm the problem? You have to, again, it's the rewiring and the reintegration at that point. But yes, you do have to get to that rock bottom in order to realize it sometimes, unfortunately.
And what are some of the common misconceptions and pitfalls around shadow work? So one does not become enlightened by imagining figures, but by making the darkness conscious. So what are some of the misconceptions? So the shadow work isn't about fixing you because you're broken. Because let's be honest, as humans, everyone's broken.
Fundamentally.
But it's about understanding yourself to the point where you are able to be a positive light versus just living in darkness. And I've been around people who I know are living in darkness. And those are the people who and to protect myself, I do distance myself from. Because
you actually have to. Energy is contagious.
It is. Energy is contagious. And the people who hold on to the anger and the darkness, like I've had to distance myself from, because that is not a positive place. And I feel like it
starts to suck you back down.
It starts to suck you back.
If you don't do the work daily, it starts to suck you back down. And it's like a little black hole vortex at the bottom.
And you have to do the work daily. I think that is important. And I think it's also about facing the uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what's the most uncomfortable thing about yourself that you've had to face?
Oh, my God, no. You can't put me on the spot like this. What's the most uncomfortable?
Or one of them. Like, what is one of your shadows?
My shadows? Oh, God, there's so many. I have insecurities about intelligence. I know I'm a smart person. Mm-hmm. I have a degree. I have all these things, but sometimes I feel inferior. And what does that stem from? So you circle it all the way back to childhood. Why do I feel inferior to these people? And my grandmother, bless her soul, this is not a shot at her. I loved her.
It's not a shot at grandma.
Yeah, not a shot at Gima, but she said to me when I was a kid, I wanted to be a vet. And she said to me, oh, you're going to marry a really nice vet one day. And to me, it was like, oh, you don't think I'm smart enough to be a vet or to do that. So it was like, oh my God. So I think that stemmed something for me for sure, where it's like that. And again, it's not just, it's like that feeling of not enough.
Right.
I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not whatever.
But you recognized that. So that fork in the road, you didn't just go down the path of thinking continuously.
It's like, oh, okay, a vet makes $100,000 a year. I'll make $250,000. Like, how about that instead? Because, And it almost it triggers a bit of a fire in you if you're a competitive person.
If you're a competitive and ambitious person, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I try
What's your shadow?
I don't know.
Tell me. Because we've both had some traumatic things happen as childhood. So that alters a kid too.
I think it might always be feeling like you're not good enough. No matter how much you do.
Yeah.
How much you achieve.
Women in general really struggle with that.
It's never enough.
Yeah.
And
totally.
and stopping the negative self-talk has been huge with me.
Yeah.
Because I talk to myself a lot.
Do you?
I do.
Good for you. Do you answer too?
I do, yeah. So you just trying to be more positive and saying more positive affirmations if I find that I'm going down the road of saying something negative.
Great thing about affirmations is that a positive, even just a positive thought is 1,000 times stronger than a negative thought if you're measuring the energetics of it. Yes. We have 60,000 thoughts a day, whether they're conscious or unconscious.
Right.
60,000. So that means, we need 60 positive thoughts. So if you're recycling that to yourself over and over and over, or if you catch yourself thinking something negative, I always say 3 positive things to myself.
Right. I try and do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to counteract it.
Exactly. Or if I catch someone else saying something negative, I'll do that too. Whereas hypothetically, you called my dog Chonky. I would say now say 3 nice things to him.
He's a potato, he's a very, very cute potato.
He's a tater tot. He's so cute. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that would be the one big thing for me. And then I think also with inner work is that the journey is not linear.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And so I think, just like life, things sort of like ebb and flow, and sometimes things are great.
The vortex will suck you back down
if
you don't continue.
And then when the vortex sucks you back down, that is also the time for inner work.
Yes, absolutely.
And I did want to take some time during this episode to talk about the things that keep our vibration high, because I think keeping our vibration high also helps with the healing, 100%. With that inner work, and with going to a positive place after you've done the shadow work. And also about self-care during shadow work, because shadow work can be depressing and exhausting. And so like we've talked about journaling and meditation, but are there other things that someone can do for self-care when they're doing shadow work?
Definitely. I think that movement is so important also. So if you're thinking of energy throughout the body, if it gets stuck somewhere or whatever, we want to shake it out. So it's either, go dance in your shower, or host a concert while you're in there
for your pet.
Exactly. Or partner, whatever. Do your thing. Yoga has been phenomenal because it's that practice of mindfulness as well as meditation as well as movement, or just working out in general. You're on the Peloton every day. That's moving meditation.
It is.
And it's
really
getting the energetic blocks out. It's beautiful.
Yes.
That's how so movement, meditation, affirmations, phenomenal. Journaling, absolutely wonderful. If you can integrate all of those in your daily practice somehow, it doesn't have to be long, 10 minutes for each, or 5 for meditation. And
right.
Yeah.
And do you think that shadow work is something that can be done like as a couple, or is it something that can only be done individually?
That's a really good question. I've never thought of it. However, I think that it's a very personal practice. Yeah.
But I think it's also like I try and have conversations with my husband just around like always aiming to do better and be better. And I think,
that's technically shadow work.
It is.
That's great.
And for me, like I never wanted to be with someone who wasn't always trying to progress themselves. Like, and, because I think it's very easy to just get stagnant in life and just stay who you are and be who you are and just non-playing character float. But I think it takes a special kind of person to always be working on yourself and seeing the shitty parts of yourself and the good parts of yourself, working on the shitty parts, but also embracing the shitty parts and then just trying to be better. So I think there is a way as a couple where we can like try and bring these pieces, because not everyone thinks like this. And even in friend groups, because like we have a lot of friends where we talk about stuff like this a lot, but I've also been in friend groups where if I started talking like this, they would think I've lost my mind. And I'm not talking about the spiritual, like what's your horoscope? Because that's like base level.
Rookie.
That's like rookie level.
No, like what kills your soul at night?
Yes, exactly. like what is your purpose? Do you feel like you have a purpose? Like,
are you in alignment with your purpose? Are you working toward it? How are you bettering yourself every day? You're right. We do belong to a very special group of women that actually do talk about these things and work on them daily. But most people don't.
Because it's easier to just sit around and gossip than it is to talk about
it's all
spirituality.
Literally that's
like true
duality.
Spirituality.
Exactly. Yes. Duality. We need both aspects.
Of course.
But, know when to draw the line and just to make it a conscious thing. How can I be the best version of myself? Right. How can I show up today? And it doesn't have to be like this wow big, huge thing. Just when you wake up tomorrow morning, decide that your main character energy, you're the main bitch today.
Yes.
So you walk around with your head held high, put on your favorite outfit. And that's how self-care aligns in this as well.
Yeah.
Because it boosts our confidence so that we're feeling good. When you're feeling good, you're looking good.
Yes.
And just keep going.
On days where I don't feel as happy or I'm feeling a little sad, then I'll always dress up more. Because it brings like that confidence. And I think, and we've talked about this as well, like having respect for your body and how you present yourself to the world says a lot.
Says a lot about you.
It says a lot. And so, you know, fitness, physical activity,
how you choose to show
caring
up.
about how you choose to show up in the world, it does make a difference, not just to the external world, which unfortunately it does matter, but to yourself. Because if you feel proud enough to say, I've worked out today, you know, I've taken care of how I look, it does make a difference with your inner work and your shadow work because you're proud of the inside and the outside. And we don't live in a world where that doesn't matter. I would be hard pressed to find someone who could actually prove to me that the external doesn't make a difference.
Of course it does. Yeah. No, even like when we do certain things, like put on a nice outfit, like you were saying, it actually, from a scientific standpoint, boosts your confidence level and your frequency.
Yes.
So I'll be using this word a lot, like in the show in general. So frequency, like just think of it as it's your vibe. What's your vibe that day?
It is your vibe. Yeah.
And it changes like a radio station, and you get to choose what your frequency is. You are the main character. You get to choose. You get to create. And I think that human beings were created to create. So it's beautiful. I love it. But all aspects, though. I agree.
And I think people forget that sometimes, that we were created to create, and we live in a world where we have every opportunity to make our lives to be what we want it to be, you know, for the most part. And so like do everything you can, do the inner work, do the outer work to make it the best, because we're not guaranteed every day on earth. So, you know, if you're finding that you're like living in a rut and you're not happy and you're not miserable and it's everyone else's fault, that perhaps
the problem is you.
And I'm not saying, you know, we just did an episode talking about domestic violence. Like very clearly there are some situations where it is not you.
That is not you.
But if you, you know, I think use your brain. But there are a lot of instances where if everyone around you is doing everything wrong and you're always the victim and you're always the one who's having things happen to you.
Look on the inside. Also look at your circle, because you're gonna end up like the main 5 people that you hang out with.
You will.
You're either gonna, if you hang out with 5 crackheads, you're the 6th. If you hang out with 5 millionaires, you're the 6th.
Yes.
Like the energy vibration is contagious.
It is contagious.
It helps you level up when you are around proper, good people.
Yes, people who encourage you.
Yes, loving.
And who you can have conversations with about personal progress, about business progress, about impact on the world. Like there's so much we can do with our little time on this earth. And part of that is doing the inner work to see where you need to heal, to see what triggers you, and how all of that can be fixed so you can present yourself as the best person in this world and in this life.
Version of you. That's the whole point.
Yes.
I love it. Well, that is our episode today of Where Do We Begin? Thank you for hanging out with us, your 2 no-filter besties. If you're loving the realness, make sure that you follow along, drop a review, and don't forget to slide into our DMs. We will link our Instagram below. We're always here for the laughs, the rants, and the real talk. Until next time, keep it cheeky, but keep it real, and we'll catch you soon.
Bye.